about to show you a series of images of a rock that I found recently. It was in context with a few other archaeological pieces. And I'm doing this particular video because a lot of people ask me, well, how do you know that's an artifact? Because in a lot of cases, an artifact may not look like an artifact to the untrained eye. A lot of people will only recognize forms like arrowhead or spearhead, possibly an axe, but beyond that, not so much. So this particular piece I found, and I've carried it around with me now for a couple weeks actually, and because it had a unique feel to me, and I wanted to study this out and consider it carefully before I made a conclusion as to whether it was or was not an artifact. And I think that this will really help illustrate that you have to look at a stone in many different ways to see whether or not it could be an artifact. If this particular piece hadn't been found on a site where other artifacts had been found, I probably wouldn't be giving it a second look. But then again, I might, because it is really a unique stone. Let's go to the first picture, and I have it marked A, B, C, D, and E. This side of the stone, with the A, is an area that could possibly be considered a notch. I don't know for sure that it is, but it is ground. It is ground down in that notched area, as though it had been done purposely. B is a slight ridge. I think that part of it is. I think that part of it is natural part of the formation of the stone. C is a series of grooves. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 grooves there. What were the grooves there for? How did they get there? I'm not sure, but I do believe it's probably part of what the stone was used for. D is another ridge. Hard to ascertain from this picture, but the stone dips down at that ridge and back towards the line of the letter C. So, was it shaped that way purposely? I believe so, because the entire surface looks as though it had been ground at or pecked at in the arc pecking method. E is a small dimple. There are a number of these dimples in the stone. I don't believe that they are naturally occurring at all, but as you'll see as we go along, there are quite a few of these in this stone. In this second image, the features are marked A through E. A, we're looking at that ridge that I spoke of in the previous picture. It gives the stone a slightly concave appearance. B is another, is a groove, what I believe is a groove, and it is ground in. It wasn't napped like an arrowhead and some of the other stone pieces. This was ground into it. C is another one of those dimples that I was talking to you about. D is the second groove, and you can particularly see in this image how it looks as though it was ground out. And then E is that series of grooves again that we looked at in the last photograph. These all, plus what you're going to see in just a moment, make this extremely suspect that it is not just a stone, but is indeed an artifact. In this image, letters A, B, and C, you'll see that A, which is a blunt end of the stone, looks as though it was ground down. Was it used for grinding purpose? Possibly. Not quite so obvious on this photo are again a series of 3 grooves on the right hand side of that A, which I think may be indicate part of what the stone was used for. But again, I'm not certain, but it is definitely an artifact. Call it problematical because we'll probably never know for certain what it was used for. B is another one of those dimples. I don't believe that that's naturally occurring in the stone. And C is again that ridge that I've showed you in previous photographs, which again tapers down and then back up and gives the stone a concave appearance. Here we're still looking at the same side of the stone. A is the area that was ground out as a groove, I believe. B is again that ridge where you see the arrow, after which to the left it tapers down, giving the stone a concave appearance. C again is those series of grooves that we talked about in the first and second image. And D is the second groove that was ground into the stone. Even though these are at different angles, they could have very easily been used to suspend the stone around the neck in the manner of a pendant or gorget. So that is a definite possibility too, that it was a multiple use stone, practical use and a decorative use, or personal what do you call it? Decoration. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I can't think of it right now. In this image, we're looking at the other side of the stone. Again, there are a lot of features on this. Let's go first to A. There are the edge, right at the edge of the stone, that has been ground down. B shows the one of the grooves from this side. C shows a series of pitted or a pitted area on the stone, possibly left there from being worked in the arc pecking method. D shows some serrations that are angular. Again, they're hard to see, but they are there, and this would attest to the fact that the stone was ground down with different various movements. And E again is the ground-in groove, as seen on this side of the stone. Here we have the blunt end of the stone, or the wider end of the stone. And if you'll see in A is a round spot that has indeed again been ground down and into the stone. B, slight modification there, not extreme. C is looking at that series of grooves that we've looked at in previous pictures, just from a different angle. D is a ground-in groove again, and so is E. And those both again show, well, actually they look more straight across than they did in the other images, but they're not straight across. They're definitely angled across. This is the blunt end of, and the narrower end of the stone, showing the concave side. You can, underside, I should say. You can see on this, on the end, that it again looks like it had been ground against. I don't think it was used as a grinder. I believe it was being shaped into the form that it has. You can't tell so much in the picture as you can in actually holding the stone, but that is shows a lot of hitting with another stone to produce the desired effect. This again is the blunt end of the stone, and looks as though it might have been used for grinding, but I don't believe it was. Since I put that caption on there, I've changed my thought on this, in that it was ground, but not used for grinding. It was ground against to put it into the form or shape that it currently has. This image is unfortunately blurred, as you can see, but it shows 3 of the dimples, and on the bottom you can see the concave feature of this particular stone. A, B, and C are all dimples that are into the stone. If it was a piece of pottery, you'd call them punctates, but can't really call them that in this context. The greenish patina on this stone is more noticeable in the photograph than it is on the actual stone. The stone itself is a ruddy, dark or brownish color, almost the color of pottery, but it is not pottery. The entire edge that I'm showing you appears to have been worked by the arc pecking method. The A feature is the this again is the blunt end, the wider end of the stone, where you can see, the narrower end of the stone, where you can see that it has been ground flat. B is another one of those, the grooves that I've showed you in previous pictures. C and D are both dimples in the stone, round circular impressions in the stone. In this image, you can see particularly well the pitted surface of the stone. The entire surface, as I said here, appears to have been worked by the arc pecking method. I misspelled it there. Sorry about that, folks. But it really appears that it was. A in the upper right-hand corner is again one of the grooves that was ground in. It doesn't look quite so profound here as it does in other images, but it is. And B is the other groove that was ground into the piece. There is no doubt in my mind that those were ground in, not by natural process. And lastly, this is the concave side of the stone again, as I think it has the most features for having been worked. A is a good look at that ground-in groove. B shows another one of those dimples in the stone. C shows the ridge from which to the right then dips down, making the stone somewhat concave. I put two C's on here. The one at the far right again shows those grooves in the stone. D shows the blunt end that was purposely ground into that shape. I should have put an E, and that would be in the right-hand lower corner of the stone, which again shows the other groove. So all of these things added together make this particular piece suspect, and being that it was found on a site with other known artifacts. This is, again, a piece that will probably always be considered problematical. But my best guess on this piece is that it was suspended for personal adornment. There's that word I couldn't think of earlier. There are markings on it that may, like the three grooves, or three or four grooves there, letter C, that and the dimples put there perhaps for some to recall certain memory or something to the owner. Definitely a unique piece. And this is why you sometimes have to really look very, very carefully at stones that you find in archaeological context. Most people would look at this stone initially and say, oh yeah, it's a stone. But as you examine it, it has a deeper, though not less mysterious, story to tell. Thanks for stopping and taking a look. Please leave your comments in the section below. I'd be interested to see what you have to say about this piece.